What do I think will happen? Well, I've got a bear case and a bull case.
Why should I be selling Bitcoin if I believe the super bull case?
To purchase 550 Bitcoin daily.
We're still pretty early.
A ton of bullish things have already been said during the Bitcoin conference in Nashville, and in this video I want to cut them in, edit them in and discuss them with all of you, because I think that there are some very relevant things to know about Bitcoin and crypto for us, and also to see where the sentiment is going in the next couple of months and years to come. So hey everyone, it's the Patient Hodler coming at you with another video here out from the beautiful forest. And if you enjoyed these quick crypto market updates, then please let me know by smashing up the like button right now. Smash up the like to a new all-time high to make Bitcoin go up as well. And with that out of the way, let's jump right in. So what is extremely exciting, I want to show this to you, is something that is here in front of me. I will turn and show it. So this behind me is a forest classroom. I think this is pretty cool, and we're going to go in there and sit there, since it's Saturday today, so there is no school here. But look at that. So the pupil, they can come here and learn while they are in a forest environment. Isn't that cool? So we are going to sit here because I think this is very fitting. So they even have like something to draw on. I think they have stored their material here, and they can sit all the time in the beautiful forest. And this is exactly what we are going to do. We are going to sit here and discuss this a little bit. So let's start out with who has been speaking and what have they said. First of all, there was Vanecks, like the guy himself, and he gave insight into the strategy of Vanecks, but also about his personal finances. So listen to this.
Why should I be selling Bitcoin if I believe the super bull case? You know, why am I constantly selling into this bull market? I mean, we just came out with research that talked about a price close to $3 million a coin in the scenario where it's adopted as a reserve asset globally. Now, that's very speculative, and that would be extreme adoption. But that's where professional investors like us in our day jobs say, oh no, you've got to do mean variance optimization, you can't hold too much. And everyone I meet at Bitcoin conferences owns way more in their own portfolio. And I always say, wait a minute, I always want to tell people what I'm doing personally, because they should know, right?
Well, what are you doing personally?
I'm like way over 30%.
Okay. Wow. All right.
So as you have heard, he thinks that Bitcoin will go over the time to 3 million, which, by the way, is the bear case of Michael Saylor, as we will see a little bit later. But also he said that he is going to have, or he has already, his 30% of his portfolio allocation of private portfolio, of private net worth in Bitcoin. And I think this is an example that many, many other people that are undecided yet rich people will follow. So you already see there is Bitcoin flowing into that direction from wealthy people. They are using the ETFs already, but many have not entered the game yet. So game theory about to play out in that sense. And then let's go to Michael Saylor that we just discussed and see what his price prediction is. Look at this.
But what's happening? Here's my macro Bitcoin forecast. It's 21 years. Goes out to the year 2045. What do I think will happen? Well, I've got a bear case and a bull case, but what I think will happen is that 55% ARR goes to 50%, 45, 40, 35, 30, 25, 20. It's between 50 and 20. It'll gradually decelerate till it's growing about twice as fast as the S&P index. And at that rate, Bitcoin's $13 million a coin in the year 2045. 13 million. It could be a 3 million bear case. It could be a 49 million bull case. But what is Bitcoin? 7% of the world's assets then. What about the rest of the assets? Well, I actually think that AIs and technology are going to revolutionize tech. We had no companies worth $1 trillion. Then we had a bunch of $1 trillion companies. You're going to see more, because you're going to see companies with 100,000 AIs and no employees, and they're going to do the work of companies that used to have 100,000 employees. You're going to see mega corps develop, shipping robots and self-driving cars, and a company that gives a personal physician to 1 billion people without any doctors on the payroll. So clearly equity is going to grow fast. Gold's going to get demonetized. Land will be less monetized.
So this is something where we have to discuss it a little bit more. Michael Saylor has a prediction about what AI plays as a role to increase basically the worth of companies, and that in itself, if companies make that tremendous revenue and grow on that base, and if they integrate Bitcoin into their balance sheets, that would automatically mean with the growth of the companies, there will be more and more Bitcoin flowing into these balance sheets. But he has a price prediction of 3 million Bitcoin by 2045 as the absolute bear case. The normal case would be 13 million, and the upper case, so the super bullish case, is 49 million US dollars. So he thinks, first of all, this means he thinks that the US dollar is still around in 2045, that it has not collapsed until then. And the biggest problem that I have with these price predictions is that it's a measurement. I mean, this is the only way that we have, but it's a measurement against a currency where you're saying that you want to go out of this currency into Bitcoin to avoid the negative effects of the debasement of this currency, yet you are predicting 20 years into the future a value in comparison of that currency, right? So it's obviously, on the other hand, you wouldn't be able to predict anything, so he has to do that. But keep in mind that we don't know if this currency will still be around. So maybe it's better to measure Bitcoin against other assets and say, okay, so how much houses of like standard average family house, 150 square meters, whatever, can Bitcoin buy for you then? Or like maybe a grocery bag or so, where also the US dollar is measured against and inflation is measured against, right? So maybe that would be a better way to predict. But overall, like in today's measures, what US dollar is today, it's basically measured into the future, and he comes out somewhere at 13 million realistic case scenario for him. And I think if you consider that like even a bear case scenario of 3 million, and you consider that Bitcoin is about 60 to 70,000 right now, that would put you at the 45x or so from here. So that means, yes, many people will look at this and say, okay, yes, I have to have more Bitcoin. So when this plays out in 20 years, I'm good compared to everyone else, right? So I think a lot of people are looking to that. And also, there are about 300 million companies out there in the world that have not yet put Bitcoin into their balance sheets. So there are about 200 countries. There are about 300 to 400 million companies out there of significant size or sufficient size. And then there are 8 billion individuals, right? So the adoption of Bitcoin is really still in the early stages, but we see now some shift to, okay, companies are really having the means, the vehicle, the financial vehicle, and also companies are really doing this right now. This is the first cycle in which companies are really adding this into their balance sheets. And the other point is that we see the small countries with adoption, like El Salvador, Bhutan, but we also see that it's now a narrative in the US elections, right? And so today, I'm making this video before Trump speaks, but yesterday we had already JFK speaking.
I will sign another executive order directing the U.S. Treasury to purchase 550 Bitcoin daily until the U.S. has built a reserve of at least 4 million Bitcoins. And a position of dominance that no other country will be able to usurp. Our nation holds approximately 19% of global gold reserves. This policy will give us about the same proportion of total Bitcoin. The cascading impact from these actions will eventually move Bitcoin to a valuation of hundreds of trillions of dollars.
This would basically make Bitcoin some kind of a reserve currency for the entire world, because once the US does a move like this, all of the other countries will look at the US and say, damn, we also have to do this, right? So these are all considerations. Like it's very, very difficult to fathom everything that is happening around this right now, because you see really institutions presenting their strategies. You see political candidates presenting nation strategies that they want to execute once they are in the presidency, right? So and then also in the news.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to figure out who it was. I think it was RFK Jr. that said, obviously. The chances of him winning are slight, but he said he'd match whatever the U.S. Treasury is holding in gold. He'd match it with Bitcoin. How much would that be? And that's, he may be the one who said it, but you could see that years from now actually being the case, and that would be a lot.
Yeah, so I don't have that calculation off the top of my head, but the U.S. government currently owns about $12 billion worth of Bitcoin at these market prices. I'm sure gold is exponentially larger than that. But what I think Bobby Kennedy is saying, which I like, and which I have been saying for the last 4 years, is that Bitcoin is actually an asset class. And so if you step out and think about it as an asset class and you compare it to things like gold, well, gold has, depending on the markets and current prices, $15 to $17 trillion worth of market value. And Bitcoin is sitting somewhere at 1/10 of that. And so over time, and I think this is one of the big arguments that the ETF holders are making, and the people that are pursuing the idea of selling ETFs to individual investors, that this is an asset class. You should own 1% to 2% of it in your portfolio. And over time, it should trade to, if not exceed, the price of gold.
So it's something that is out there in the space, in this echo. It's outside of the echo chamber right now. It's not only on X. It's on CNBC or whatever. Like, it's on national television in the US. So this discussion is available to all the citizens out there. So that is very interesting to see as well. Let me know in the comments below what you think about all of this. What do you think is going to happen and be announced for Bitcoin in the near future? And what do you think realistic price points are? Are these price points maybe even too conservative? Who knows? Stay tuned to this channel for more updates on crypto, on altcoins, on everything. Don't forget to tune into Crypto Morning Coffee as well. And wherever you are on the world, have this great morning, evening, day, night, or afternoon, and I see you in the next video.
Well, I think what's interesting, James, is that we're still pretty early in the rollout of these, right? It's only been 6 months. Yes, the flows have been tremendous, but when you think about the client segments, iShares and similar for Vaneck and Bitwise that we serve, it really breaks down into end investors direct, wealth advisory, and institutional. And that first segment from day one came kind of storming out of the gates. There was huge demand, and that drove a lot of the flows. But in the other two segments, it's still quite early in their journey. When we talk about institutions, there's a long research, diligence, exploration process that requires a lot of education. We're on that journey with a lot of our institutional clients today. The wealth advisory space, the RIA channel, which is a subset of it, turned these on quickly. But when you think about the big wirehouses and private bank platforms, none of them have really opened them up to their advisors yet. Typically that takes multiple years, and they're actually, in many cases, expediting those processes in light of what tremendous success there's been, but none of them have actually turned it on yet.